Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bob Unger Show. I am very privileged to have as my guest, really privileged and honored to have a guy who is a man of integrity, in my opinion. And you know, I always give out my opinion, whether you like it or not. And I've never been accused of being a shrinking violet, that's for sure. Bill Murphy had a very interesting life, a lot of interesting experiences. In the old American Football League, he was a member of the Boston Patriots, and he had played football at Cornell like his dad did. In fact, his dad made a very historic catch in a historic Cornell football game. And Bill followed to a degree in his footsteps and kind of had the Jewish disease, even though he's Irish. He wasn't a fast runner. He could take a shot going up the middle for a pass and hold on to the ball. And what he did in his football career is similar to what he's done with his organization, Gata, Gold Antitrust Action Committee. The same tenacity, the same integrity, the same guts that he applied on the football field, he applied to trying to pursue exposing the illegal and dishonest and fraudulent manipulation of the price of gold and silver by the Bullion Banks in cahoots with the government, because gold is the canary in the coal mine. It lets you know that something is wrong with that coal mine and there could be poison gas. So, Bill, I want to go back a little bit in your background and tell me about how you wound up playing football and then going to Cornell. Give us a little bit of that story.
Well, thanks, Bob, for the kind words. It's really, I was just an average player, I guess, in high school. My dad went to Cornell. They didn't recruit me, and I went there when Tom Harp was from Army, and we had a lonely end formation with the guy with the wide receiver wouldn't come back to the huddle. It was kind of cool. I said, I want to be that guy, the lonely end. So I go to Cornell and I go into a wing T. Not only no lonely end, no wide end. Anyway, I ended up finally getting to play wide receiver my final year, broke every record there was, and then free agent for the football, pro football, and went and was put on the farm team, and then eventually got brought up and started for the Patriots and did quite well, actually, and then hurt my knee in the next off season, and that was it. But I did it. I was there, and that was the last year the Patriots played in Fenway Park, so it was much fun.
And what was your major at Cornell?
Hotel administration.
So you had no economics.
Well, you just had to study economics, yes. But I mean, the best education I got was getting out in the world after football, and ended up at the New York Athletic Club, met a guy named Dan Ritchie, who was, everyone in Colorado would know him. He's half the school is named after him, and was at Westinghouse Broadcasting, and he got me into commodity trading, and did really well, and followed him, and then went into brokerage business and met Ray Dalio, who's the biggest hedge fund manager in the world now, and helped Ray get his business going. I mean, he didn't have anything. He was in trouble way back when. This is in the late 70s. Now, of course, he's so famous. So anyway, that's my career, and I know.
So that was before Bridgewater, right?
No, that was when he was just starting Bridgewater. He actually had got fired by Shearson Hayden Stone because he was exposed. He was head of hedging, and he was showing how you hedge. And he had to make an example. He had a girl at a San Francisco meeting with a fur coat on. She took her fur coat out, and she was naked. And that was his way of, getting into the hedging thing. If you don't hedge, you're naked. Well, anyway, Sandy Weil went on to Citibank, fired him, and he started Bridgewater, and of course then became famous as he is now.
Maybe that was a metaphor for naked shorting.
Could be.
So you worked in the commodities futures game, and that must have given you a little bit of education about options trading, I would imagine.
Oh, totally. I mean, I really got understood, fully. I was a big time trader at one point. I don't trade anymore, but I understood how it worked and what was behind it and who the characters were. And of course, back then there was trading on the floor, nothing like all the internet stuff today and digital stuff. So, but anyway, that's where I got my education about futures and met a guy named Frank Veneroso, who was big time guy on Wall Street. And we realized the world was going to run out of copper. Copper went berserk. Similar, we get into what silver is doing now. And it's really fun to be a part of moves like that.
Mm-hmm. You talked about the traders on Wall Street. I would call it traders with a T, not a D. Kind of trader.
Well, some of them
run the Fed and the ones that run the banks.
Well, that's of course what Gata's been up against, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. We realized after I stopped working with Frank, and the internet was getting going, I said I'd like to write about gold and silver, and I thought I could do a decent job. And as soon as I started, I realized that the gold and silver markets were being rigged by the big banks, as you say, and the U.S. government, Bank for International Settlements, and it's been a lot to overcome, but they're in trouble.
Explain to the listeners, because a lot of people have been schooled in the opposite of the truth. In fact, I think the more economics you take in school, the less you know. But explain to the average listener or viewer exactly why the government would want, I alluded to it, but you go into more detail as to exactly why the government and the bullion banks would want to suppress the price of gold and silver, and then we'll get into the mechanics.
Well, you nailed it. I mean, basically, Paul Volcker said if gold goes up, it's bad. Gold goes down, it's good. It's a way of looking at how things are going in the U.S. financial markets. It's been that way for a long, long time. So you suppress the gold price, and you got to suppress silver because it equates to gold. Then it calms things down, and it affects interest rates and the dollar. And they've just always been anti-gold, and it's become a thing. And we figured it out. And, that's the way it is.
And exactly how physically do they, no pun intended, physically do they suppress the price? What are the mechanics of what they do?
Well, over the period of years, it's been mostly in the futures market. They'll sell futures on the COMEX to suppress the price and then sell physical gold, which they leased from various operations and put into the system. So they would combine what they did in the futures market and gold. And it's been different stories over the past 20 years. But basically now, about a year ago, they started running out of enough physical gold to hit the market. And they've been retreating since the end of May of last year, going from 1260 to over 2000. And it's quite exciting because they don't have the physical gold anymore to do what they've been doing in the futures market. And finally, after 8 or 9 terrible, terrible years in silver of manipulating the price, they're running out of enough physical silver like they have gold, and that's why silver has exploded the past 3 weeks.
And where do they get this gold and silver?
Well, just from the mining companies, from the mines and storing it, and just accumulating it over the years, and storing it in vaults. And what started to happen years ago was they would lease it out to various operations. In other words, they would take the gold and sell it in the market and still owe the gold back to where they got it from, but they haven't been able to do that.
Explain to the listeners and viewers what naked shorting is. Not the type that Ray Dalio did, but market sense.
Well, naked shorting is when you just sell a product, say gold or silver, when you don't have the physical supply to back it up. When you have to back it up, it's called hedging. In other words, you own gold or silver and you sell it to take advantage of the price in the futures market. Naked shorting is when you just sell the futures all by itself and don't have anything to back it up.
And that would be a criminal act, wouldn't it?
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends in what context, because I mean, a speculator can short the market as well as go long the market, and that's not criminal. But if they're lying about it or trying to deceive people, then it would be criminal.
And there's been a number of prosecutions over the years of individual banks like JP Morgan, and they've paid fines. But that is like the normal type of corruption that people are used to. What you're talking about goes even deeper.
Well, it is in the sense that they're trying to deceive people, and I mean, for example, Morgan Stanley sold the same silver to a bunch of clients. They said, "Here's silver in the account." Well, they sold the same silver to about 5 or 10, 20 people. I don't know how many people made millions of dollars. But the people that paid them thought they all own the same silver, so they got caught. They got fined. The Justice Department called J.P. Morgan this past year a criminal enterprise because of what they're doing in the futures market. So basically, they, in cahoots, of all the banks have done all of this on behalf of the government and so on, as you mentioned, to really, rip off the people in the markets. But it's blowing up, as I've written in my commentary, and I call it the gold cartel. The gold cartel has blown up. So what you see coming in the futures market this year and for gold and silver prices are going to be astonishing.
So you're saying essentially that they have run out of physical to sell to suppress the price.
That's exactly it. It's that simple.
And in addition to that, as for example, Ted Butler, who was a commentator on mostly the silver market, as he said, they are now having to face people who, for the first time, want the actual physical metal delivered as opposed to just trading in a paper contract for cash. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. Ted's a smart guy.
Yeah, and I remember Ted talking about Izzy Friedman.
That's his hero.
Right, and talking about how he always recommended that if you're going to buy silver and you're going to buy it in the form of bullion coins, always buy silver eagles. And I first heard that around 2003, and I didn't know anything about anything back then. And I somehow listened to Izzy Friedman, and it's funny because the premiums that I see now when you go on the typical internet websites, whether it's Gainesville or AppMex, the premiums have blown out more on silver eagles. In other words, above the actual spot price, the silver eagles more than any other type of silver. Do you notice that?
Yeah, well, my brother works for Scottsdale Bullion and Coin and sells gold and silver, so I follow it through him. And yeah, the premiums have gone nuts. And if I'm right, and by the way, I was been looking for silver to move towards 100 for years, as you know, and I've been just like, hello, year after year after year, nothing. It's the most rigged market suppressing I've ever seen. And now $10 in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, yikes! It's just the beginning, and it's going to be spectacular. I know Eric Sprott thinks that way. He's as smart as they come, and we have so much excitement ahead. Of course, you're going to get corrections here and there, like in any other market. But the surprise is going to be how fast that silver moves up, and that's why everybody's buying up these silver eagle coins.
Eric Sprott was talking about Gata today. I listened to his weekly commentary, and he said precisely what you just said. In fact, he even mentioned Gata, which I really appreciate because it shows that he's humble enough to recognize the contributions of people who are not necessarily billionaires like he is, which shows me that he's a humble guy. You know, it's like a football player who gives credit to the other guys on the team. I always like to see that. And that's the way he seems to be, which, I have a lot of clients who are very rich. I'm a lawyer, don't hold it against me. But I have a lot of clients that are just average people. And I find that as people get more and more wealthy, instead of caring less about material wealth and maybe caring more about spiritual wealth, they actually become more greedy and more obsessed with the wealth. Whereas the guy who was able to humble himself and to realize that there is a God, but he's not the one who is the God, guys like that, I think they wind up better off in this world and quite possibly the next world. And guys like him, I just give him a lot of credit, as I give you a lot of credit. Not that I think you're a billionaire.
Far from it.
But you're a billionaire in integrity.
Well, I'm with that, but Eric Sprott is one of a kind, and very few people out there like him, and I appreciate what you're saying because it's so true about Eric. And He's a real class act.
Yeah, absolutely. I was taught, I was lucky. I had a very old-fashioned father, and he taught me the values of the old days. So I'm a dinosaur. I mean, I'm so technology deprived or disabled, you too, that my wife has to turn me around in order for me to put a light bulb in the ceiling.
I know the drill.
And so I am a dinosaur, and I'm a dinosaur in the way I think, in terms of the way most people think today, is I come from an era when lawyers could actually shake hands. When they shook hands, you didn't have to count your fingers. And you believed that what they were telling you was absolutely a commitment on their part that they would follow through on. Today, every lawyer has to have a stipulation signed, 3 contracts, because people are not trustworthy. And one of the points that a lot of the people who are more knowledgeable than I am make about gold and silver as real money is that when a society's character and integrity and morals go down, so does the economy, and so does the money or currency, which is what paper is. It's not money, it's currency. And if you notice that at the same time as the gold market is shooting up, the morality and character is catapulting down, flying down as if they jumped off a building. And you see it in the looting, the robbing, the criminality, the perversion of children. I tie all these things together. Most people look at things in a vacuum and they're unidimensional. They have blinders on like a horse. I look at these things as the dictionary definition of intelligence, which if you look it up, it says to make connections. An intelligent person makes connections. And the derivation of that word means literally to make connections. And that's what you've done in the gold and silver markets. You've read the various signs, the various footprints, like an Indian scout, and you've put 2 and 2 together instead of just looking at everything in isolation. Would you agree with that?
Well, I thank you for, again, the kind words, and I do the best I can. And it's been a very exciting time, and it's been, until recently, tough times for us people in the gold silver world, but now it's going to be spectacular. As I keep saying, Newton's law of equal and opposite reactions. It's going to be as good, except much faster, as it was tough these past years, because again, if I may, the gold cartel has blown up. So it's just by following all this stuff and understanding what was going on, it's given me this conclusion, and knock on wood, it's playing out that way.
Well, a lot of the market gurus, you'll hear them talk about the 200-day moving average. And they'll say to you that the price of anything cannot go too far above the 200-day moving average. They call that technical analysis. And there is a support at the 200-day moving average. And then as you get further away, there's increasing resistance. And so they're saying that gold has traveled too far above the 200-day moving average. In other words, where as you move on in time, if the price is going up, the 200-day going back goes higher and higher, and vice versa when the price is going lower. What would you say in response to that?
Well, I have a high regard for technical analysis. It's very, very useful. Use it all the time myself. But there's one thing to stress right now. It doesn't mean we can't go down, of course, but these are rigged markets blowing up, not normal free markets. And that's what almost none of these people understand. You have things that have been artificially suppressed for year after year after year. And now the bad guys, this gold cartel, has run out of the physical gold, their ammunition to bomb the markets. So the surprise is liable to be how fast we go up. And then, of course, you're always going to get a correction like in any market. But you can't, in my opinion, you can't look at this as normal markets, a normal analysis. These are very important markets that were suppressed for a long, long time, and the bad guys have blown up. I can't stress that enough.
Well, where would you, if I had to put you on the spot, what are you looking for the gold to silver ratio to do? Because it went up as high as
125.
125, and now it's like around 72, I think.
Yep.
Where are you looking for that to go, let's say in the next year or so?
I just, my guess would be back towards where it should be anyway. That's 30 or 40. So that would mean that silver's got to double from here relative to gold.
Would that be a reversion to the mean that you're looking at?
Yeah,
by the
exactly
ratio?
right. Eric Sprott is actually looking for it to go, I think, as low as 15
Yes.
as part of an overshoot. But I mean, and he's smarter than I am, but 30 to 40 is reasonable.
When silver shot to $50 back in, I believe, 2012, I think that was the year.
11.
11, okay. You got me there, 11. What was the ratio at that point when silver hit the
You got me there on that one. I don't know. I know that silver topped out first the beginning of May, and then gold topped out at the beginning of in September of that same year. We had a Gata conference in London, and it really spiked up dramatically above 1900, and now of course it's taken that out. So I don't really remember exactly how the ratio was moving back then, but I think we were around 30 to 40, 30 around there.
I remember you testified before the CFTC, the Commodities Future Trading Commission, and I remember that a fellow named Andrew McGuire testified as well. Could you tell the viewers exactly what that was all about and what happened?
Well, we were just testifying about the manipulation. Actually, Andrew McGuire was supposed to testify, and we had a good commissioner there, Bart Chitnell, who unfortunately has died since then. But they cut out Andrew McGuire at the last, right before the conference. So he couldn't testify. So he gave me something to read, and Bart Chitnell allowed me to read it. Basically, the irony was they had this on, it was on the internet. People could see it live. The only thing that was cut out was my testimony. You can't make this up. The only one who was blacked out. So
was that like Nixon's tapes?
I something like that. It was weird. Of course, I didn't know about it at the time, but Bart allowed me to read. We had something that Andrew sent us that I could read, and I was allowed to do that. And so basically, we're just explaining about the manipulation and what this gold cartel was doing. And it was, as always, no matter what we come out with, outside of the likes of an Eric Sprott and John Emery and some few other people, yourselves, we still don't get any attention. My colleague Chris Powell does an incredible job sending stuff to the press and the news media. And we talk about it. Nothing. It's just like it doesn't exist with these people because they will not take on the rich and powerful. They just won't do it. I mean, and the media is behind the rich and powerful, so they won't give us the time of day. But the truth is the truth, and eventually this will serve us. My guess is, like an Enron or Bernie Madoff, when they blow up, when the gold and silver markets really blow up, and everyone's going to say, how could this have happened? Raise my hand and say, well, we'll explain it to you if you want to listen. But until then, we just do our thing.
And what was it that Andrew McGuire's testimony that you read, what did it say?
Well, basically, he was just saying that, that J.P. Morgan was behind the operation, and that, he had been out, drinking after work or something, or having a bite to eat and talking with some of the J.P. Morgan traders, and basically that he found out from the horse's mouth what they were part of the rigging of these markets, and that's what he wanted to tell the Commodity Futures Trading Commission.
So he overheard them bragging about it.
Yes. Yeah, just a normal conversation after work.
Mm-hmm. So they were drinking some truth serum.
Yeah.
And the truth came out.
The truth came out is right.
That's amazing. And wasn't he also involved right after that in a car accident?
Something like that. I tried to find out more about it. I haven't been able to do it, but helicopter chase, and someone tried to run over he and his wife, and it was really something. So I'll let him tell that story next time, maybe. But it's been quite a journey.
When you first started out, did you understand the history of gold and significance of gold? I'm talking about when you were a kid out of school. Had you ever learned any of the economics related to that, or were you just like everybody else?
Pretty much like everybody else. I mean, you know, I knew about it, but didn't follow it seriously. And it wasn't until the fellow I mentioned, Dan Ritchie, introduced. Met at the New York Athletic Club, and he was trying to find out the prices of pork bellies. And I went out and bought a pork belly, and I went limit up the next. When I lost half my money the first day, and then it went limit up the next 9 out of 10 days. I said, that's my kind of business. So I got involved in commodity. I made 10 times 10 times my money in 2 weeks.
Wow, wow. But you didn't understand the bigger picture, I guess.
No, not at all.
So you were more of a mechanic at the time.
Yeah, just a trader.
Right, right. With a D, not a T. So Gata now was formed in what year?
Right after I formed, I started writing Le Metropole Cafe to do a business, and right after that, long-term capital management, the big hedge fund blew up, and that's when I started checking around with people, and I said the gold wouldn't go up, and I realized I'd heard from a bunch of people, including Frank Veneroso, that basically the banks took over their big short position because you had to buy everything back, and if they bought it back, the gold price would have exploded. So they got together and further showed us they were rigging the market. That's when I realized the market was being rigged. And I had a subscriber, Chris Powell, who was tired of me complaining about what was going on. He said, let's do something about it. So in early of 1999, we formed the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, and we've been at it ever since.
Yeah, I remember you in the beginning. I think I became a subscriber. And the website is lemetropolecafe.com. Is that correct?
That's it.
Le Metropole. There actually used to be a naked dancing bar in the city of New York called Le Metropole.
I lived in New York 15 years. I never went there.
See, you missed it. You didn't pay attention.
That's right.
You were too busy looking at gold.
Well, I had a great time in New York. It's funny, when I lived there, I loved it. Now I don't care if I ever go back, but it was a great place to live.
Yeah, you were there for how many years?
15, right in the middle, 57th and 3rd.
Wow. Is that how you became friends with Jeff Kreindler?
Jeff Crenner, yeah, his family. Well, Jeff was actually my roommate in college too. So I just talked to him today. We've been friends for 50 years.
Yeah, how's he doing? I remember he had some health problems.
Yeah, he's had some tough go, but he's one tough cookie, and he keeps coming back. And he had a stroke a long time ago, and he defeats everything, and he's a great guy.
Well, birds of a feather flock together, right?
I don't know about that, but Jeff's one of a kind. I can say that.
You're a tough guy. If I was in a bar and one of those obnoxious characters that I used to meet in bars all the time started trouble, I'd like you to be there.
Yeah, well, thank you, Bob.
If you could take on the cartel, you could take on those bums with no problem.
Well,
so how can people find out more information? How can they become a subscriber? And how can they support you?
Well, you can go to the Metropole Cafe, and you can sign up for a 2-week free trial and see if it's of value. And then my colleague, Chris Powell, at gata.org, Gata.org, you can go there, and he's got a free newsletter that he puts out a lot of great stuff every day. And we both work in tandem on this stuff, and that's pretty much that simple. And
believe it or not, since the time that I met you way back in the beginning of the new century, I have never, ever missed a day that I didn't read the Le Metropole information that you put out every single day, except on the weekends, and even sometimes on the weekends. And if I somehow have to go to a function and I don't have a lot of time in the evening, I deliberately wake up and ruin my beauty sleep next morning just to read it so that I don't have to read 2 of them at night. So I'm literally addicted to it. I need to go to rehab to get over it.
You've been a great supporter, Bob, and I know it. And it's great to be on this show with you, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, I thank you, and you deserve a lot of credit. As Teddy Roosevelt said, the credit goes to the man who is in the arena. and you've been in the arena. You've never faded when a defensive back was about to hit you as you were going over the middle. You always took the blow and held on to the ball, and you deserve all the credit in the world, and may God bless you and yours forever.
Well, thanks again, Bob. This has been great.
And thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too, man. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bob. Stay in touch.
Will do.
This was fun, and I think we had a lot of excitement before the end of the year.
Yeah, well, Eric was talking about how he's going all in on silver.
Yeah, well, again, there's no smarter guy than Eric. And,
Yeah.
you know, again, my Newton's law, I talk about it all the time, and it's finally happening. It's taken years, but it's happening.
Well, he's even pushing today. He's pushing a stock that I bought a long time ago that's been dead in the water, Jaguar Mining.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's going into Jaguar Mining.
Well, that's good to know, because I bought some of his other picks and I made a lot of money. So
Yeah.
my picks are the dogs of dogs. I don't even want to talk about it. Even First Majestic, who I thought was my safest pick of all time, it's acted horribly. Terrible.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I don't understand it. I'm
Yeah.
really clueless. But anyway,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that some other time, maybe when it goes, because it will. So we'll see.
All right, man.
Anyway, have a good day.
You too, man. Thank you.